guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Maria. If you watch this video and you enjoy it, don't be shy, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for any future videos on narcissistic abuse recovery and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So today we're going to get into the topic of narcissistic mothers and their sons. Alright, so let's get started. So if we take a look at triangulation, which I have a video listed above right on triangulation, so you might want to check that out. We take a look at a triangle here with the narcissistic mother or parents at the top. So we're talking about mothers and sons today. So we'll say the narcissistic mother at the top. So say we have three different types of sons. We have the golden child. So let's start with the golden child. When we have mothers who put their sons on certain pedestals, I don't know, maybe they're excellent at football, they're so good at golf, they're great at sports, they get really good grades. The reason that a narcissistic mother would put that son on the pedestal is because narcissists feel as if you are an extension of them. So they are able to take that information to their friends, to their families, and that is their way of having bragging rights. Right? So they then are not using you as, and they're not saying that you are an individual. That's the thing with narcissistic parents is they don't view their children as individuals. They view them as an extension of who they are or who they think they are or who they want to be as a human being. So they're not looking at that son saying, I am so proud of you because you accomplished these things, right? Because you are an individual who is so, no, it is not that. They are idolizing and putting you up on a pedestal as the golden child because they are able to then use that as, I am an amazing parent. Because look at what my son can accomplish. They can take that information and use that as bragging rights. So unfortunately, a lot of things come along with being a golden child son. And not if somebody is a golden child at one point in time, they may end up being a scapegoat. You know, like somebody is not just going to be a golden child for their entire lives necessarily, right? They can move in from being a golden child, and if you are not able to hold up that role forever, your parent or your mother may look at you and say, they're not filling this void inside of me anymore. They're not doing things that are good enough. I'm going to go ahead and move them into the scapegoat role of triangulation, which I will speak about in a second. So something else that happens a lot of times with golden child who is a son of a narcissistic mother is the mother won't want to let go of her son. As he gets older, she is actually insulted when he wants to form a bond with another woman, right? She takes this as a huge insult to her ego. Why would my son need someone other than me? Right? So at this point, she may discredit your relationship. She may resent your life partner and not like them, put them down, try to break you up. So a lot of times, this is the point right here that a golden child could very quickly turn into a scapegoat. Because if the son decides, no, that's not okay, right? Like, I love you as a mom. However, I love my wife. So he goes on to be with the wife and doesn't give the narcissistic mother that attention that she needs to fill that void of emptiness that she has inside of her. He can quickly move into the scapegoat role, and another one of her sons or whoever it is can move into that golden child role in which their accomplishments can now prove her self-worth. So along those lines in triangulation, so we have the narcissistic mother, we have the golden child son. We also may have the scapegoat son. So that's going to be on the opposite end of the golden child. So the scapegoat ends up having a lot of issues, which sometimes leads to C-PTSD later in life. And this is because of a sense of abandonment, emotional abandonment, sometimes physical and psychological abandonment from his mother. So again, a scapegoat is not going to be looked at as the individual, wonderful son and get validated. He's actually going to get shamed and put down for not being like the golden child. And it has to be hard to be constantly compared to someone else, especially when it's by your mother and it's your sibling who is actually an equal to you. So a lot of times a mother will want to keep that scapegoat down in the spot she wants to put him down in, and she will shame him for not being what she wants him to be. You know, a narcissistic mother, like I said, your kids, their kids are an extension of who they are. And that scapegoat is not filling the void, that empty void that the narcissistic mother has inside. And they are being punished for not being able to fill that void. However, no one can fill that void. Right? So a lot of times the scapegoat ends up with, you know, C-PTSD, toxic shame, which is a part of C-PTSD. So because they were put down and shamed in that way for so long, they have internalized that shame to then be a part of their identity, which later in life they carry with them. Right? That can come out in a lot of different ways. You can self-medicate, go into the flight trauma response, and get into drugs and alcohol and all kinds of things to try to get away from that toxic shame feeling, which actually, if you check out videos on healing, going into the flight trauma response, although it does protect us, it's a part of our protective self. Until we actually feel the feelings, we are not able to heal from the C-PTSD and the toxic shame. So being the scapegoat is definitely going to be a very hard role to fill, these kind of, this internal shame and everything. The abandonment tends to turn into self-abandonment. It's very hard to hold relationships when you get older because your example of a woman was somebody who constantly put you down. I can imagine that as a man, and as you get older, it would be very difficult to be in a relationship with a healthy woman, because you may constantly be thinking that she has ulterior motives for the way she's treating you, especially when she's treating you nicely, because you don't know that. That's not comfortable to you. A lot of times scapegoats get into relationships with women that need to be fixed because their mother constantly, they felt a need to fix their mother, and then they get into relationships with women who need to be fixed, and that makes a scapegoat feel important. A lot of times scapegoats become people pleasers in that sense. So lastly, in triangulation, so we have the narcissistic mother, the golden child, the scapegoat, and then we also have the invisible child. So this invisible child, you know, if I had to put them closer in the spectrum to a golden child or a scapegoat, I would say it would be more towards the line of the scapegoat. So they're obviously, the name invisible child, they're not being put up on this pedestal. It's kind of like when we talk about being an extension of the mother itself. The golden child is the extension of who she wanted to be. The scapegoat is an extension of who she is and the self-hate she has inside. She wants the scapegoat to feel that. And the invisible child has a lot of neglect. So they're not able to live up to the golden child, and they're not getting the attention even even though it's bad attention that the scapegoat's getting. So again, this leads to a lot of abandonment and not knowing where to turn, a lot of internal confusion. And again, they do sometimes, a lot of times, turn to the flight trauma response and self-medicate to not have to feel these feelings that they have. And like I said, these are interchangeable. So a golden child may turn into a scapegoat. An invisible child may turn into a golden child. It just really depends on how aware you are of the manipulation, how much research you've done, and where you are in your healing journey. So these are the 3 roles that a narcissistic mother can have for her sons. So we have the golden child, the scapegoat, and the invisible child. But just remember that a narcissistic mother is not going to look at her son as an individual. So what she is actually doing is something happened in her childhood and she is looking for someone to fill a void inside of her. Instead of going internally and fixing her own problems, she is trying to get someone to fill a void. And that's where these 3 different categories of triangulation come into play. They are used as pawns in a game to fill a void. This void is never going to be able to be filled. That's why they say when someone is narcissistic, they very well may just be narcissistic throughout their entire lives until, unless they just decide that they really want to take hold of this and go into therapy and really handle these feelings that they have inside this void. But as we know, that's usually not the case. They usually project the negative things they're feeling about themselves onto their children and their spouse. So that's where we're at with narcissistic mothers and their sons. If you got something out of this video, don't be shy, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel for any future videos on narcissistic abuse, recovery, and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. If you have any suggestions for any future videos you'd like to see, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. This is a safe place for you to communicate your feelings. I am here for you if you have any questions at all. I really appreciate your time today, and as always, I wish you all the love in the world.